Hey guys, Grindhead Jim here. I am sitting here once again with someone else in the industry. I'm speaking with GamerTron about something that is near and dear to our hearts, games. Go figure. Big surprise, right? We're talking about the good things about gaming. We just had a conversation about the prevalence of negativity in the scene, and we decided, well, the hell with it, we're gonna just flip the lid here and talk about some good things. What are the good things about being into this culture, and what are our favorite things? So, thank you so much for joining me today, Gamertron. Pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. You have a great channel here, Jim. You really do. I love your Destiny content, and I love your commentaries. And I love, I know this is kind of off topic, but I love how right after I made a video about sports and video games, you made a video right after talking about sports and video games.
Yeah, I did that specifically because you made the video, and I wanted to bring up a point.
And you made a very good point, might I add. And again, I was kind of being not necessarily negative in that video. I was just giving my opinion on the
Sure.
whole sports thing. But you really took what I said and turned it into something that's really big and meaningful about esports and stuff like that. And I guess we might as well start off with that before we talk about our favorite games and stuff. And just, oh, shoot, bump the mic. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Is that how much gaming has grown from back in the Atari days, because now there's debates going on whether video games are a sport. There's esports, as silly as I think that is. Games now have multi-million-dollar trailers. They're on television now. There's video game movies being produced. Look how big Halo's gotten. It's getting TV shows. It's getting movies. Like, video games have become this whole other amazing thing from when they were so young, just years ago, maybe a decade ago. Like, they become huge.
Absolutely. I think at this point, video games have come to the point where they're on par, if not exceeding, at least in the public eye. Fiscally, they've certainly exceeded movies and film to a very high degree as a form of entertainment. But there's more to gaming than just that static entertainment. There's an interactivity to it. I remember even when the Atari came out, yes, I'm that old, playing Pac-Man and ColecoVision, playing Ladybug and Donkey Kong and all these games as they evolved. What I always dug about it was that I'm used to watching television, but being able to interact with something on my TV was such a novel thing. I will tell you flat out, here's how I know gaming has gotten huge. There are people that you'll talk to, that you work with or you're friends with, that will only watch things on Netflix. Like, that's all they watch. They watch movies on Netflix, they watch the TV shows on Netflix, they might dabble in Hulu, but that's all they do. That's their ingestion of media. There are people I know that do not, under any circumstances, watch Netflix or film. They watch YouTube and they play video games, and that's it. When you're, again, in a world where you can actually have all of your media intake be non-traditional in the old sense, meaning it's never been available in an analog sense ever. That means that industry has come a very, very long way. We've gone from two bars and a dot to people debating about multiple monitor setups and virtual reality and everything in between, where all these things are being they're in the forefront of not just entertainment but technology itself. Very exciting time to be here, and that's why I continue to be an enthusiast of this genre of entertainment, is because it is so exciting. It's always on the cutting edge. At least that's my take on it.
And that's a really good take on it. Like, that's a completely agreeable take on it. Granted, you have been into gaming a lot longer than me. My true love and passion for gaming only started around 2009
Okay.
with the release of the video game Prototype. So we might as well start talking about our favorite games. Do you know about Prototype, the original
Oh
Prototype?
fuck! I remember Prototype when it was a prototype. I had a paper subscription to Game Informer, and the job I had at the time was something where we did research based upon cases as they came out. So, for example, when something went wrong with a check or something like that, my job was to find out what happened. Well, if there's no cases, there's nothing to do. So you're waiting for the case to pop. So you're encouraged to read and pass the time however you wish. So I had an MP3 player there. I would listen to music and I would read. And I read these magazines cover to cover. Even the games that I had no interest in, or the games that I would never play because I didn't have a PS3 or whatever, or a PC that was capable of gaming at the time. I would just read everything. And Prototype seemed like a pretty decent game to me from the outside. I just never took the time to
Got
play
around
it.
to playing
No,
it?
I just never got on to playing it. But I remember reading the article. It was very in-depth, and they had a lot of really cool ideas to it. And it was something that I see it on the shelf, and I keep saying, I'll buy it, and then, no, I won't buy it. So who knows? Maybe now I'll have to. So tell me about
Okay.
this game.
Well, first let me talk about how I first, like, my experience and how I really got into gaming, and it was through Prototype. You see, around 2009, I was really into watching video game reviews because I couldn't play these games. I didn't have a powerful enough PC, so I could only fantasize and watch video game reviews like, those are the games I could be playing. But gaming never really caught my attention to 2009. It was just this thing I knew about. It was like the only video games I really played were Star Wars Battlefront and the Halo Combat Evolved on PC because I had a PC that was just powerful enough to run those games.
Nice.
So gaming was just a side thing, was just a thing I did on the side when I had nothing to do. I was more into watching videos and, of course, school and whatnot. But then 2009 came around and I watched a video game review for the original Prototype, and it blew my mind because I always thought that video games were kind of limited. Like, there was only so much you could do with it. But then Prototype comes out, and it completely my head explodes from like, you can do this with a video game? You can have New York City. You can replicate New York City in a video game. You can run around it. You can double jump. You can pick up cars and throw them. You can have superpowers. You can fight mutants and zombies, hijack helicopters. I never thought any of this would be possible or could be done in a video game. And then I see Prototype, I'm like, I need to get this game. And then I start thinking to myself, wait, if Prototypes come out and it does all this amazing stuff, what other video games have I been missing? So once I pick up Prototype and I get my new gaming PC for Christmas, I get Prototype. I get the Wolfenstein game that came out in 2009 that was just called Wolfenstein. I get the original Borderlands. I get when 2010 came around, I got BioShock. I got Alien vs. Predator, BioShock 2. Just I went through a phase where I kept buying the latest and greatest games that I kept hearing about, and I truly grew a love for video games. I started checking out new games, old games, and I realized what an amazing thing they are. Like, the reason I love Prototype so much is because, one, it's a great example of what video games are capable of. They can fulfill fantasies. Who doesn't want to play as a superhero, basically, or just have superpowers and cause chaos, act like a little bit of an anti-hero, go through epic battles that you only see on films, but now you can replicate and even outmatch, I guess, even the scenes you see in action movies. Action movies nowadays bore me because I can go and say to myself, yeah, I can do better in a video game. I can make a much more entertaining action scene in a video game, and at least that's my take on it.
Absolutely. It's something where, in this day and age, the video game has long been essentially a power fantasy, and that's an awesome thing. I did a video about people escaping from things in their lives through video games, so they feel more powerful, they feel more in control. It's a place where you decide how things go, and that's one of the most wonderful things about it, and probably where a lot of the rage quits come from, you know. But that being said, I mean, video games kind of started out as a skill test and a diversion, and they've slowly morphed into the most viable entertainment out there, and it's compelling because you're in control. How many times have
And
you
not
seen
just because you're in control. Sorry to interrupt you, but not just because you're in control. Because video games have also evolved to the point where you can customize your experience, and you can experience a story as well as tell your own story.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm getting at. How many times have you watched a movie where you want to be like, "Watch out, bitch! He got a knife," and then she does it, and she gets killed. You know. But in the game, you don't have to say anything. You just pull back on the D-pad or you press the S key and you're good. And she backs away from the knife, and we're good. Or there's some shitty QTE and whatever. But the idea being that there's, again, it's something you have control over. You decide how this is done. You get to experience something. So the storyteller gets their nut, you get their nut, your nut, because you tell your own story. Everyone nuts, and then the janitor has twice as much work. But who cares? He's well paid. Um, and I think that's where gaming is right now. It's a room full of cum. No, not really, but ultimately we're talking about something that just consistently is new. You know, movies haven't really changed. That's why Avatar was supposedly such a big deal when it came out. It was this new thing. Arguably, 3D technology hasn't really made the splash that it was intended to, but gaming consistently evolves. It consistently innovates. It consistently does something new.
With both gameplay and graphics. I mean, first-person shooters are so different from when they were in the 90s.
Yes, I remember playing the original Wolfenstein and Doom on a 386 that I still have, and it Wing Commander and many other games. But you know, there was only so much you could do. There was limitations. I distinctly remember having a boombox behind me with the tapes in it so I could listen to music while I'm flying around the Wing Commander because I wanted to listen to my own music. And I remember thinking how wonderful it would be to just store the music on the computer and play
or in the actual game.
Right, and play it, you know, in tandem and have it, you know, integrated. And so what I tried to do was I took a mic that I had and I recorded that music just through the speaker because we didn't have a line in on the computer. There wasn't such a thing at the time, other than the microphone because it wasn't shielded properly for a line in. I'm getting nerdy. But I recorded a song, and on the 386, I recorded a WAV file of a 3.5-minute song. It filled up the hard drive.
Oh.
Think about that for a second. A WAV file, which was maybe, 50 megabytes as a RAW, which is what we would now refer to as FLAC, was 50 megabytes, and it filled up the hard drive. It was ridiculous how small this hard drive was. Comparative to what we have now. My dad said, I understand why you did this. I think it's a great idea, but you can't keep it on here, son. Like, I have to get it off. Okay, it's fine. And right away, my thought was, is there any way to make the file smaller? I may have, in my mind, invented the concept of an MP3 right then and there, without realizing it. But ultimately, it's just one of these things where now we don't think twice about it. And even with console gaming, right? I do things that are very unorthodox. I run a line out from my stereo receiver to my computer, and I mix everything with a software audio mixer so I can listen to whatever I want to on my computer, whether it's podcasts, music, YouTube videos, but also listen to my gameplay from the PS4 or the PS3 or any other console and mix it in. It also makes streams a lot easier too. But that's something that just wasn't possible 10, 15, 20
live
years
streaming.
ago.
You just mentioned streaming. Live streaming video games wasn't even a thing back then.
There wasn't even, I mean, streaming anything wasn't a thing 10, 15 years ago. 10 years ago, live things were very hard to pull off. They
were rare.
Even the earliest days of Ustream, around 2008, 2009, 2010. I'm not sure when exactly it started, but the first one I actually watched was in 2011, and even then it was kind of, it was all dependent upon your bandwidth, cams. I mean, webcams just became HD and affordable HD about 2 years ago. I mean, everything else you could get HD cameras, but they were very high end, or the ones you could afford were very low quality. So when things like the Life Cam come out, and then Logitech stepped into the game with the C615 and the 920s of the world, do you find that you have the means in your own home to create content that is, frankly, watchable? And it's a beautiful thing that we're able to not just participate in the consumption of media, but to create. And it's this kind of aeroborous creative process that I love, and that's why I continue to be so involved with video games. In 2013, I almost stopped playing all new games altogether. It was E3 2013 that made me decide I wanted to stick around and keep doing this, and that's why I started the channel that I did. I've had YouTube channels before; they're still going, but my gaming identity really started that day. because there was such an excitement. There was a palpable difference, a shift in where the culture was going, and I wanted to be a part of it. It's exciting. That's why things are good. You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the bad or in the hype machine or in the trolling nature of the culture that we forget how wonderful it is that we even have these slabs of plastic and silicon that can do these things. Uh, because a few people got together and had an idea. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I love it.
I mean, it really, really, truly is. I mean, uh, we're talking about really good games here. Look at how people consider video games to be art nowadays. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that what was once considered a child's toy, video games were once just a child's toy. Now they're considered high art. They're considered something for children, adults. They're for people of all ages, all genders, all nationalities. Video games are literally for everybody. And there's a video game out there for everyone. Everyone who's into anything. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of scary things, Lovecraft, stuff like that, you have Dead Space, you have Outlast, you have Amnesia, you have what was the number? Alien Isolation. If you watch the old Alien movies and you're looking for good sci-fi horror. If you love action movies or action adventure, you have Just Cause. You have dare I say the name, Call of Duty. The single-player campaigns are actually quite a bit of fun.
We don't talk about all that around here.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
For PlayStation, you have Uncharted. For Xbox, you have Halo. You have all these great action-packed adventures that you can really make your own. And then you have games like Fallout and Skyrim and Mass Effect and Dragon Age that tell these grand, epic stories that you thought you could only see in a book or in a movie. But they're even better than those because you get to more than be a part of the experience. You get to change the experience the way you see fit.
Absolutely. It's just one of these things where I don't think it's such a far-fetched that we look at these things as art because it is storytelling on some level. It always has been. It's just that now I think the reason the masses are getting into it more so than they did before was that it takes less imagination to figure out what's going on. I mean, if you look at some of the early Atari games like Raiders of the Lost Ark or even E.T., I know that's a four-letter word, those were relatively complex games in terms of the engineering that was being done and the things that you would be able to do within the game. It's just that because of the limitations of the technology, you weren't able to properly portray your vision at that time. And I would argue that there were plenty of games that tried very hard to tell a story. Maybe they failed at it, but they were trying. Even as early as the NES, where there was really an attempt to do actual storytelling within the games, like Ninja Gaiden. Like, we'd never seen that before, where there was cutscenes in a game. That was one of the first, if not the first, that had actual cutscenes.
Actually, I think it probably was the first, and after that there was the whole... is it called FMV? I think it's called FMV.
Full motion video, yeah. But that was
full motion video.
And to be honest with you, I mean, that was '89 when Ninja Gaiden came out. We didn't really see FMV until about '92, '93, which back then that's a long time because, and even then it wasn't that big a thing on consoles until we were gone into like the Sega CD around '93ish. Sega CD came out like '92, '93. And it was something where we were looking at getting into this new generation, and everyone was trying to be the first to do the video thing. It really didn't come full circle until really the PlayStation era at the consoles, but PCs had really good FMV much sooner, arguably.
Command and Conquer.
Sure. I mean, I can describe my favorite FMV moment in one word: spice. But that's if you know what I'm talking about, go look it up. But it's just this idea that, again, we're looking at an industry that from its inception has innovated, has created new opportunities for entertainment. I mean, look at Kiefer Sutherland is going to be in the new Metal Gear Solid, for crying out loud. He's the starring role.
I know Jack Bauer is the new Solid Snake.
which makes sense, but
I mean, Big Boss. Sorry, Metal Gear fans will tear me apart already.
that's all right. They know better than to troll my channel, because if they really want to know Metal Gear from a Metal Gear fan, they go watch the other podcast that I do, which has a Metal Gear fan in it, and I'm the guy that goes, oh. And he gives me a hard time about the stuff I like, so it works out. Again, at the risk of speaking in circles, which fans of my channel know that I do, we're just in a place where it innovates, even in a cannibalistic way. And I'll use Destiny as the example here. You've got the very best shooting mechanics around, and I find that inarguable on a console. Destiny has the best gunplay of any game you will play this generation until Destiny 2 comes along. I'm just saying. Bungie knows how to do guns. And then they said, well, how can we make this more immersive? They took the best feature sets of MMOs and of online gameplay and tried to mishmash everything together into something that hadn't existed before. Something that had MMO features, had the shooting characteristics, and appealed to fans of both without alienating either. And they're consistently growing it into something that I would argue is becoming more like a traditional MMO every single update they make. And I think it's a very subversive way of slowly getting mainstream people into the concept of an MMO, a traditional idea. Because if you just threw the full game out there, people wouldn't be able to be into it because they would be intimidated by it. Bungie's been giving it in bite-sized chunks, and man, the bros are turning into nerds by the thousands, son. I love it. So I think that I always say this. There's never been a better time to be a gamer, but you could say that on any given day and it would be true. As long as we continue to appreciate the positive things that we have to enjoy here. Any closing thoughts?
Exactly. Any closing thoughts? Well, it'd have to be this. There's a game for everyone out there. If you're just getting into gaming, just search for something that may look for you. I'm repeating myself in the same sentence. There's a game for everyone. If you like storytelling, if you like action, if you like a challenge, if you like a puzzle, there's literally a video game for you out there. This generation we are in, so many people say it's the worst generation for gaming. I say it's one of the best. We can get so many amazing experiences for reasonable prices, look for cheap deals, that sort of thing. Gaming is great. It doesn't matter how you spin it. Gaming is great. It's always going to be great because there's too many great things about it to just give up on gaming or call it something bad. Gaming's great. I really don't know what else to say. Gaming is great, period.
There you go. You heard it here for hopefully the 1,000th time. Gaming is great. But if you didn't know that, now you know. Thank you so much for joining us over here, and thanks for letting me host this on my channel. I'm going to post a link in the description to GamerTron's channel, and I'm also going to make it really easy for you guys that are lazy and don't want to even click. Just go to GamerTron, that's GamerTron.grindheadgym.com. GamerTron.grindheadgym.com. You'll be able to go right to his channel. No muss, no fuss, and tons of gaming content. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the like button, you bastards. And as always, keep on grinding. Cheers. I'm out.